Live coverage for you here on News Channel 8. Going to take you to Arundel County Police Headquarters in Millersville, where we're expecting to hear about two very high-profile cases that department is currently investigating, I should say. Let's listen in.
Adams, he continues to recover in shock trauma right now. With me, I have Chief of Police Tim Altamari, State's Attorney Wes Adams, County Executive Steve Shue, Corporal Adams' wife, Miss Ritu Adams, Acting Deputy Chief David Waltmeyer, and Sergeant Mike Cox. He's the head of our peer support team, who's been instrumental in helping the family as they go through one of the worst things that we can go through as police officers. So I'm going to really quickly give you a rundown of what occurred and what we know. It was about 2:21 early Friday morning when we received this initial call for the officer who had been shot. Our officers got to the scene, and the officer actually found him suffering from the gunshot wound. What we believe occurred is Corporal Adams observed a vehicle near a BGE substation on East College Parkway. He didn't know if this vehicle was broken down or if it was a suspect vehicle and something else. As you know, one of our big pushes here in the county is heroin, which is tied into metal thefts. The BGE power plants have been a place that a lot of these metal thieves have gone to. So he's doing what any officer that's working a midnight shift does. He checks that vehicle. One critical piece of evidence came as a result of this checking on the vehicle. He punched in that tag number into his mobile data computer, and that helped lead us to the eventual suspect. Once he finished that business with the vehicle, and he proceeded to the 7-Eleven, which we believe was for a business check. Again, midnight officers are in and out of our 24-hour businesses, and we believe that's what he was doing there. Once he arrived, his attention was drawn to a male who was on the side of the building. He engaged that male in conversation, and an altercation occurred at that point. The suspect took off running, ran through a wood line, and the officer went after him. It appears that the officer caught up with the suspect near that van that he had previously checked on. Witnesses then described hearing a couple of gunshots. Once again, at that point, arriving officers got on scene and they found Corporal Adams on East College Parkway suffering from a gunshot wound. Before the officer was taken to the hospital, he was able to give us a description and some unique identifiers of the suspect and confirm to us that he did in fact run that vehicle on his mobile data computer. That's more of a testament to our training academy, that in this crisis that he was in, he was able to remember, I have evidence for you guys, and he was in critical condition at this point, so that's just worth noting. The vehicle came back registered to a Danielle Blake. Surveillance was quickly mobilized in the Severn area where that vehicle came back to. Search warrants were obtained for the vehicle and a residence in the 1800 block of Meade Village Circle. Colvin White was identified as a person of interest early Friday morning. Now, that's been a bit of a point of questioning at 9:00 a.m. when we knew that this was the suspect. He was a person of interest. We were developing probable cause to get to the point where we were able to get an arrest warrant, which occurred later on that evening. So at that point, he was a person of interest. We had reasonable suspicion to believe he, in fact, was involved in this crime. He was then later charged that Friday night, and we announced that immediately to the community and to the public. The relationship between Colvin and Danielle is they have children in common. We don't know what their current status was at the time of this incident. Okay, at that point, we believe that the female involved, Blake, drove away from the crime scene with knowledge of the incident that had occurred. And we also believe that the purpose of White being there was to commit a robbery of the 7-Eleven, and Corporal Adams interrupted it. We have not yet recovered the weapon. Corporal Adams did not fire his weapon, and we're still investigating if anybody else is involved in this crime. Once again, we're in the midst of a very active investigation, so questions and comments related to the investigation will be limited. But we will just want to reiterate, Colvin Lamar White is being held on no bail status. He's been charged with a number of charges, and I'll let the state's attorney go over that. And Danielle Blake is also currently being held on a no bond status, and she's been held with conspiracy to many of the charges that Colvin White is facing. I'm going to introduce Ms. Ritu Adams. She's not going to take any questions from the media today, but she does want to make a statement, and we thank her for being here. Ms. Adams.
Thank you, everybody, for all your love, support, prayers. The family during this tough time is one of our worst nightmares. You never think it's going to happen to you. It's definitely very overwhelming. I just am very overwhelmed to think of all the love and prayers. Our immediate family, his family, we're very, very touched by all of your love and support and all the positive wishes and prayers. So thank you very much. And, you know, my kids thank you also. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm County Executive Steve Shue of Arundel County. Let me begin by saying that events like this bring our community together in pursuit of justice and in support of those who have been injured. I want to thank the professionals of the Arundel County Police Department and of the Office of the State's Attorney for their incredible work in apprehending these two suspects. I also want to thank the citizens who participated in the vigil on Friday looking out for our fallen officer, and for the medical professionals of R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma who once again performed incredible work to save the life of a police officer. I had the opportunity to visit Corporal Adams this morning. I'm pleased to report that he is moving, he is in good spirits, he's conscious, he's a little uncomfortable, but he is with us and he's going to make it, and his condition has been upgraded to stable. This whole situation is a circumstance or an illustration of the revolving door of justice that has existed in this county for some time. This suspect was arrested in 2005 for armed robbery and given a 5-year sentence, of which he served only a very small portion before an over-lenient system of justice turned him back out onto the street. He then violated his probation, appeared before a judge who did not return him to jail as he should have been, but instead sent the suspect back out onto the street so that he could be in a position to commit the crime that he has now committed. Well, those days are over under the new leadership of Police Chief Tim Altamari and our newly elected State's Attorney, Wes Adams, and a new generation of judges like Kathy Vitale. The era of revolving door justice is over in this county. This police work that you just witnessed over the last few days is a great example of the new era of collaboration and the working relationship that now exists between the police department and the Office of the State's Attorney. The citizens of this county are fortunate to have these professionals at work 24/7 to look out for their safety, and I want to express on behalf of the citizens of this county how proud I am of all the work that has been done so far in this case. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wes Adams. I'm the Anne Arundel County State's Attorney. Because Mr. White has been arrested and this case is pending investigation, I am very limited on what I can say. I'd like to detail our State's Attorney, the State's Attorney's involvement, my office's involvement in the investigation that occurred over the past few days. We were informed of Corporal Adams' shooting in the very early hours, within hours of it occurring. Myself and Chief Altamari were in constant contact throughout the morning, reviewing updates and developments. In addition, my Deputy State's Attorney, John Church, and my Chief of Violent Crimes, Jason Knight, were working hand in hand with the police command staff from the outset of this investigation. Deputy Church was on scene of the shooting by about 7:30 in the morning. Deputy Church and ASA Knight assisted in preparing all the relevant documents and important documents for this investigation. In addition, Deputy Church, ASA Knight, and myself were consulted with regard to the interviewing witnesses. We worked with the detectives throughout the charging process. At 10:30 on Friday night, Deputy Church was present for the bail review that held Mr. White without bail in front of the commissioner. On Sunday, ASA Knight was involved in the bail review hearing that held Ms. Blake without bail. And just this morning, I handled the bail review hearing of Mr. White before Judge McKenna, where Judge McKenna continued him on no bail. I want to thank our county police for the thorough and complete investigation of this case. It was done with extreme professionalism. The cooperation between our two agencies is in a place that it has never been. It is at an all-time high, and it's exceptional. We've both put our heads together from the outset of this crime, as we have been doing for the past 4 months, in order to get a fair and thorough, complete resolution of this case. We have been seeking to fairly and quickly resolve these cases to protect our citizens. I could not ask for more from our law enforcement partners, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize. I've kind of run myself out of steam here the last few days, and my voice reflects that. So if you can't hear me, just give me the high sign, and I'll try to speak up for you. You've heard a fair amount of details today, and I don't have any more details to give you. I really wanted to come before you today and look in the cameras and look at you folks taking notes for the print media. And I wanted to say my thank yous as the Chief of Police for Anne Arundel County. And I think it's very important that I do that. And the folks that I have to thank are legion. So I'll ask you to bear with me for a few moments. And I'm going to start with my cops on the scene. Unless you've done this job, it's hard to communicate. The feeling you get when you pull up and see your brother or sister laying on the ground, unresponsive, with blood all over. From the very first moments following that instant, the men and women of the Anne Arundel County Police Department and all its facets have taken out all the stops and provided world-class police work, world-class investigation. They've been professionals. They've gotten the job done the right way. And every one of them deserves for their chief to be as proud of them as I am right now. Somebody said to me, "You need to rein your cops in, Tim." And I said, "No, I don't. I don't need to rein anything in. My cops are pros, and they're going to do this right, and they're going to do it within the boundaries set by legality, morality, and ethical behavior." And that's what they did. I'd also like to thank the pros who started working on Larry immediately when the ambulance showed up from our fire and EMS system. We have some of the best paramedics in the world. We have the best EMS system, I think, hands down in the world. And from the moment they showed up there, they started a battle with the ticking clock to get Larry up to the next group of people I want to thank. And they did it fantastically. And the next group of people I'd like to thank are the staff that Dr. Scalia has put together at the Shock Trauma Center. I don't think I surprise anybody in the room when I say we have got the best trauma center on earth. Much was made of the fact that the Anne Arundel County Police Department have never suffered from a fatal shooting. And I'm telling you today, looking at you folks, that is by the grace of God and the skills of the staff at Shock Trauma, period, end of story. I'd like to thank the folks from all over the state who wear uniforms and badges, who showed up at Shock Trauma, drove hours out of their way to look at Rue and to look at Larry's police family. And tell us how much we meant and how much Larry meant. It meant a lot, ladies and gentlemen. We'll never forget it. We were treated like family by the Baltimore City Police, who stayed with us the entire time when we were worried, who took care of everything that needed to be taken care of so that we didn't have to, and we could keep thinking about Larry. I'd like to thank Mission Barbecue, who was kind enough to send food to 2 locations. So a bunch of folks who stayed in the same spot for 16 or 18 hours had something to eat without stressing out about it. I'd like to thank my partners from the community who come together and pitched in to make the family who came in from 3 different states welcome and their lives easier this week. I'd like to thank the state's attorney and his staff who, as usual, rallied with us, made sure we were getting the job done right, and that we have a case put together that's going to see justice done. I'd like to reach out to the folks in our community who gave us hundreds of tips, who sent us prayers, love, positive thoughts, affirmation, whatever you want to call it. It worked. Larry's sitting up today, laughing more. His pain levels have dropped markedly, I think. And I think that we got a miracle that was helped greatly by those positive thoughts that got sent in from around the state. I'd like to thank Rue, standing behind me, who was stronger than us on Friday, who held us together, who made us laugh a lot, who shook us by the back of the neck when we needed it, and who kept us focused on Larry and his recovery. She was superhuman. She was a rock star. And we couldn't have done it without her, as ridiculous as that sounds. I'd like to talk just a moment about what it means to be a cop in 2015. If you live in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, you are served by one of the best police departments on earth. Hands down. Take the check to the bank. It's the God's truth. And this 710 cops, we're short. We're about 26 short right now. So 680s. 680 cops who go out there night after night, despite all the hurdles that have been put in front of us the last 10 years. And they provide world-class service. And every one of them, every night, is willing to go through what Larry Adams went through on Friday. And they deserve our respect and our approbation. And I'll ask you as we move forward to keep that in mind and to keep sending that positivity to all of them, because we're not done hurting here yet. I'd like to talk a little bit about the midnight shift. I was asked Saturday, what was the officer doing at 7-Eleven? Like it was weird for him to be at 7-Eleven. 7-Elevens get robbed in the wee hours of the morning. Cops are supposed to go to 7-Eleven and check on them. And that's what Larry was doing. Whether he was there to get a cup of coffee or not, I hope he was there to get a cup of coffee. But he was also checking on the employees of that business. And the system worked because they were able to tell him about a suspicious subject. And then the rest of this drama went downhill from there. So to answer that question, Larry was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing at 2:15 in the morning as he's driving around College Parkway. I'd like to close with this. We've seen a lot of drama lately. And we've seen some cops doing stuff for which they deserve to face justice lately. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is a case study in who cops are. This is who 99.9% of the people who put on this uniform in this country, in this free society, every day. This is who cops are. And I'd ask you to remember that moving forward. Thank you very much for coming out.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Are there any questions that we might?
Talk about the weapon that wasn't found. Do we know a size caliber based on shell casings, or was it a large, small caliber? Can we go into that detail?
No, we're not going to go into that specific detail right now. And again, it's still active. Although we have the 2 arrests related to this case, we thought that that was most important to get out to the community, especially with the community's help in this situation.
Lieutenant Smith, can you shed some light on the road ahead for Corporal Adams?
That's a long road ahead. I mean, probably more mentally than it will be physically, of course, trying to come back from that. This is the first officer in Anne Arundel County that's been shot in the line of duty since 2008. The officer who was shot in 2008 retired more recently than that. So it's going to be a long road ahead with the injuries that he sustained. But again, that's minimal compared to what fate that he could have met on early Friday morning. Anything else?
Do you guys think there are any more suspects in this case, or just these two?
We're going to continue to look at that possibility as we continue on. We haven't been able to thoroughly go through every investigative mean because, of course, Corporal Adams is still recovering. He was fortunate enough to be able to provide us with information at the beginning, but we want to have an opportunity to talk to him again and help establish whether there are other suspects that we'll be looking at, and investigators are continuing to follow up. So if anyone in the community has any information related to this, we urge you to continue to call our tip line at 410-222-4700.
Do you have any idea of what the altercation was that may have led to?
Well, it was a person that got caught basically probably about to do a robbery. And, you know, when the bad guy gets caught with his hand in a cookie jar, it's fight or flight. And that's what happened. And, you know, unfortunately the circumstances took place. But, again, that's what officers do. That's part of our training. We all wear the uniform, have been through the training. And one of the things that I remember distinctly from the training academy is whether it's going into a convenience store or walking into a mall, we're still the police 24/7. And you never know what you're walking in the middle of. You never know what you might be breaking up. And this appears to be a scenario that, lo and behold, the officer was doing the business checks to prevent these types of crimes from happening, and he got there at the same time as the bad guy did. And again, the bad guy got off a shot, but hopefully that bad guy will be going away for a long time.
Did you say it was more than one shot? I thought I heard you earlier.
It could have been more than one shot. I don't know exactly how many shots, but the witnesses reported hearing shots. All right.
Were Blake and White together in the car at the same time? Where does Blake come in with, she drove off, right?
She was there at the scene, we believe so. So again, we're still getting down to the details of where who was at the specific time, and if there were other parties involved, but she was there at the time and drove off, yeah. So.
Knowing this person had, and he was charged with armed robbery back in 2005, what's the department's feeling, knowing that this guy could have been, needed to be behind bars a little longer? Well,
I mean, I think with our job, we deal with that on a pretty regular basis. I mean, people have a right to get out of jail after they've been sentenced for a crime. So it's the nature of our business, something that we're pretty much used to, and that's one of our focuses, focusing on repeat offenders. That's something that we do as a matter of routine. Again, it's unfortunately the dangers that come with the job, and we got to see that, unfortunately, on Friday morning. All right. Thank you all, and if there are any other updates, we'll let you know.